Very briefly, I'm doing a synopsis of 6 pages that are going on my website, but I'm not going to talk about food poisoning as such. I went through that with Dan. He got food poisoning, and you can die from that. And that's a medical, completely different medical condition. And I posted a very long scenario on Facebook on how to treat that. But basically, you need to eliminate that there's anything in your blood, and you need a brain scan. So you do need a proper doctor, and you need to find a doctor who's going to treat you for food poisoning. And once I eliminated that his blood was okay and his brain scan was okay, although he had neurological damage and behavior change because he definitely gotten food poisoning. I treated him for mold on an energy bar, and it's not the same as meat that's tainted. Each food poisoning is different, and those methods are listed on Google, and you can look them up. The only thing that I had to do with him that isn't on Google, he had to walk. He had to keep moving and flushing. And it took 4 months. And beet juice, organic beet juice, helped increase his oxygen supply to his brain so that the inflammation in his brain was slowly reduced. And I managed to keep him off major drugs. But like I say, that is not what I'm talking about. For that, you need a doctor, and I took me 3 weeks to find a doctor that would support me, so because if he'd just gone to the hospital in where I live, he would have not been properly treated. So it depends on where you are. But food poisoning, there is proper treatment for that. And you have to have a blood test, a brain scan test, and if not caught soon enough, you will die. It might take you 6 to 8 months to die. I had 2 friends die with it. They went to Cuba and got food poisoning. And a little boy also, they went to Cuba during COVID, isolation. They broke protocol. Well, their 4-year-old is brain dead on machines. Me, I wouldn't keep a child alive in that condition suffering. But I just wanted to say very briefly, food poisoning is not what I'm talking about when I talk about being poisoned. I'm talking about the chemical hypersensitivities and the environmental intolerances to man-made toxic chemicals. So this is just an introduction into what is going to follow my synopsis onto research for Parkinsonism. Thank you for listening. And I hope I helped somebody. God bless. June 17th, 2021. The humming you may hear in the background is the fan. Don't have the air conditioner on because it's way too loud. I'm trying to get as much done before I'm no longer on the planet, which I really don't think will be much longer. In fact, I thought I'd be gone by now. Between COVID and the vaccine, I don't stand too much of a chance of survival much longer. But in the meantime, I joined several groups around the world: United States, Sweden, Europe, England, Costa Rica, South America, and there's none in Canada. And the purpose of that was to connect with people with Parkinsonism, multiple chemical hypersensitivities, environmentally intolerant, food allergies, food intolerances, and to share with them, or maybe learn from them, methods that I didn't know about. Well, much to my heartbreak, they're suffering as I did 40 years ago. Very few are getting treatment for a disease, because the disease is Parkinsonism, and they're poisoned and they're not being treated for being poisoned. And they're using pretty much the same methods that I do, except there are some things that I do that they don't know about. But then I didn't only research for myself for 37 years, I researched for other people. So I have a wider range of knowledge. And I took care of my mother for 18 years, all the while taking attacks and being poisoned. As society changed, they poisoned us more. They put more in our food and less laws. And the one thing I did have was media, so that truthfully, I had 22 years of skiing and dancing in my little gas mask. And I got smoking and a fragrant banned and fragrance-free public halls with air conditioning, so I could go dancing. And people stopped wearing, men stopped wearing brute cologne and triggering my attacks, and women stopped wearing perfume. Actually, my mother was the worst. Out of over 500 people in the dance group community that I belonged to, my mother was by far the worst, including her boyfriend. Yeah, the closer I was to home, the worse it was. But anyway, yeah, the media really made a difference for me, and it really broke my heart. So I did a 5-page synopsis. Now I've typed it all up. I've got over 500 YouTube videos for historical purposes. I hope we'll be there for 200 years, because the children are going to need it. And not everybody can do what I do. We're like snowflakes. We're all different. We all got holes. We all got defects, and we're all beautiful. But overall, it's pretty much similar. So for me, I'm going to give you some very personal things that I do when poisoned that may be a benefit to others down the line. And I have typed it all up, and on a free website, it's all there. So this is basically from 1987 to 89. I researched how people with MCH, multiple chemical hypersensitivities, could survive, and discovered several communities, 2 in the United States, 1 off the coast of South Africa, and some in Europe, but they were all very isolated and extremely expensive. I decided I wanted to find a way for us to live in normal society, as most of us have lost our homes, our careers, income, denied disabilities and pensions, medically abused and devastated. And if we land on welfare, low income, we can't afford these communities. And besides that, I didn't want to live in total isolation for the rest of my life, nor did I think that that was a real future for the children of the future coming up. So, number 1, fight. Get local media support. That really made the difference of living and living with dying. And dying. I did get a lot of media, small town, no national, but you know what? You don't live internationally. You live in your community, and that's really all you need. And when you do that for yourself, it'll help others. And it was really successful. It got cleaner work environments with the help of the United States Steelworkers Union, and it got smoke, fragrance-free public halls, so I could go dancing. And where I skied, because I handed them a copy of the media, it wasn't just me talking, me crazy. No. Media gave me legitimacy. And so they would let me know when they would be grooming, and there would be fumes and diesel and oil from the skidoers doing the grooming. And that way I would allow either not go that day, or they would, in one case, they decided no more grooming when I was around. They would do it very early in the morning. I'm never out before 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the winter. And I would ski for 2 hours. And then they would come, one, they're open at night, and he would do it after supper. So I was never affected. And, you know, what a difference in my life. I didn't have to live in one room anymore, isolated in a shack. Okay, so the MSA gas mask is the second. It gave me the freedom that I needed to get the publicity, to be able to talk to people, and succeed in getting me those wonderful 22 years. Now, that's not to say I was cured. I took attacks on and off constantly, and I researched how to pull out of them. And I researched and I put all that on YouTube and on my free website. And then in 2015, a tumor that is a parasitical fat cell tumor cannot be operated on inside my right leg muscle. And it's right up high, right up here, and it's the size of a football now. Well, that did sciatic nerve damage and set me back over 30 years. And I had to start all over again. But by now, I had people that were educated and willing to give me help. And one woman, Colette Paquette, God bless her, she gave me a simple exercise for my legs to cross over this way and that way, and cross over this way and that way, and that relieved the pressure in the hip of the sciatic nerve that was being pressed by the tumor. And it took a couple of years. And then slowly I was walking, and then slowly I was skiing, and slowly I was dancing, and I never got back to how beautiful I was at 72. Was my perfect year on the planet. Yes, I was 72 when I got fabulous, and I had one perfect year. But anyway, and then from there, the tumor, there was fraud, and I was robbed of my home, my inheritance, and my savings. I was robbed by my brother, my brother-in-law, by my lawyers. And I never got the laws changed. I did do a lot that was successful, but I never got the laws changed. And until I ran into these groups, I never realized how much I really had accomplished, because they're where I was 40 years ago. They can't go anywhere. They're being medically abused, and their families are putting fumes in their face, and they could care less, and badly treated, almost all of them, and I'm talking thousands and thousands of people all over the world. Breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. Anyway, I went all through that, and I did not quit. I kept on fighting, as I had dreams of getting my research public to get rights for all, and laws to ban toxic chemicals, air, food, water, and beverages, and medical recognition for Parkinsonism, and that we are being poisoned. And once you recognize we're being poisoned, then, and we're creating genetic diseases caused by the chemicals. And my fight was to get these chemicals banned and proper treatment for being poisoned. Now, traffic fumes, for instance, they can be recycled. Not 1 ounce has to go out into the atmosphere. Why bother? You're willing to pay $50,000 for a car to poison yourself. It's insane. Anyway, despite all my suffering, I have no regrets. At least I tried. But for me, each attack is completely different. And knowing how to pull out of these attacks correctly is the key to surviving in a normal society, and how to prevent them in the first place. So what follows are the basics to what worked for me and everyone I tested. It worked on my mother. She would have died. I kept her alive 18 years. It worked on my boyfriend. It worked on my current common law husband of 37 years on and off. And it worked on many, many other people. And number 3, you start with a daily diet of where, what, when, so that you can learn for yourself what your attacks are caused by and research how to prevent and reverse these attacks. Now, diesel is the worst. Gas, oil, traffic fumes. Now, for me, they trigger paralyzing attacks, and the pain is like being horrific, like being electrocuted through every molecule in your body, and I wanted to die, and the quickest way to come out of this is coffee. However, that'll create a hyperactivity, and then I don't sleep or function or eat for a number of days to bring myself down. And then I wind up crashing because I'm in an adrenal drain. So I only do that if it's really necessary, like I'm going to die. Otherwise, I take a slower way and I detox with raw okra, or if you cannot tolerate okra because you're allergic to aspirin, the old-fashioned way is with chicken broth and chicken soup and high fiber. Mushroom is high fiber. And chia ground, put it in the soup. And you got to flush your system out and drink a lot of clean distilled water, not in soft plastic. Mineral water has microscopic rocks in it, salts. That's not going to help you detox. You want to flush out. And when you can eat as much fruit and vegetables, obviously, as you can. I have a kale smoothie that is hydroponic kale and organic carrots, apple. I don't make the only apple and tomato are what I'll put with a vegetable and salads. I don't believe in putting a lot of fruit because it takes different enzymes and it's high in fructose sugar, and I don't feel that really helps me to detox. So based on my research, that's what I do, and I add yogurt to it, or kefir. Now, dust mites, I have a section on that. I no longer take major attacks from dust mites because I have slowly increased my immune system to God's creatures. You know, a dust mite, it was not created by men. And we keep it down as best we can. I have air filters in my bedroom. That's my safe room. But I have a separate section on that, and I'm not going to talk about that in extensive detail because there's a lot to it. Sulfites are on organic fruits and prunes, and many companies are telling lies. And after all I have been through, just a few months ago, I was in hypothermia attack for 3 days, and I was terminal. But the condition was such that I could not go to the hospital, number 1, because of COVID, and number 2, because they don't know what they're doing. And so my poor Dan, he got on his knees and he prayed. But he had to just keep me warm to bring my the heat up. And I shook, I vibrated with hypothermia. And again, garlic, he crushed garlic, and we have organic garlic crushed, you know what I'm trying to say, dried garlic. And he put it in a chicken broth for me. He went out and he got chicken broth. But you can use a vegetarian organic vegetable broth with garlic. It'll do the same. And then again, I had to keep flushing and pull out of it. And because of the danger to my organs, I went on milk thistle for a week. And the same with pesticides. Now, pesticides, I'm not talking airborne pesticides. I wear a gas mask at all times outside unless I'm in a wilderness. And if it's in food, my attack is not as severe, but nevertheless, I cripple. I call it chronic fatigue syndrome. I just can't function. My brain is down. My body's down. I'm weak. And I just feel really sick, and it's hard to eat. So to get all of the pesticides is slow. I could get to my feet with coffee, but it didn't detox it. It took me 6 months. Yep, 6 months. And I went through 2 years of crippling because of pesticides hidden in organic food. Now, I am allergic to cod, and that will cause anaphylactic shock. When I go anaphylactic, I have to stick a finger down my throat and throw it up, and then flush. When I went to the hospital only once, they did me more harm than good. Not saying I never go to a hospital, but I make sure that I am in control and they don't decide how to treat me. And I carry my media with me. So you do need to find yourself media and a doctor who is sympathetic to your cause. I made it really clear to the doctors that I was going after media, and that if they helped me, they would be helping thousands of other people. That it isn't just about me, because truthfully, I don't mind dying. Get me off this crazy planet. Okay, so medical research. Americans, by far, have the most up-to-date, valuable research. As far back as 1989, they had everything going back to 1775. So they helped me the most. The Mayo Clinic registered our disease as Parkinsonism, and MCH and EI is a symptom. Now, this got me my disability status despite the fact that I'm a Canadian. I sent letters with a copy of my media to every doctor in Ontario, and I found 2 that cared. Today I use email. It costs nothing. And so far I've sent to every politician in Canada, coast to coast, federal and provincial, and didn't find one. Not one. But that don't stop me. I keep going and I keep trying. They're not willing to take it on. Maybe when they have a child with the disease, they'll change their attitude. And probably, maybe not even then, because they're so selfish. What do they care? Now, education is the key to our freedom and not living in isolation. Yep. You've got to be completely program yourself that you must educate. Educate your neighbors, educate your family, educate your doctors, educate your dentists, educate your media, educate your community. I walked through malls and I handed a flyer to children and teenagers and staff. And I did that for 22 years. Yep. That's right. I did. Now, one woman with a computer education has a career and a good income. And she's not living in an isolated community. She's figured out a way to successfully work in the normal world and still have an income. And if I wasn't almost 80 years old, the truth is that I am mentally proficient enough, having reversed memory loss and brain damage, that I could go back to work. Yeah, I could work in an office. My legs may not be perfect, but my brain is. But anyway, that's just an example that there are options. But first you have to get yourself functional. And no matter what, all that matters to me is that I try to educate to make this planet and our society safer for everyone, not just me. Now, spring, summer allergies to pollen and God's creatures, not man-made toxic chemicals, but God's world of microscopic creatures. Now, this has worked for me not just once, but twice. Back in 1987, I used this method that was taught to me by a biochemist from Japan. And he said, just go out into the wilderness for about 5 minutes then 10 minutes, and then 15, and I got to the point I could be out for hours. Yeah, providing there was no gas fumes or anything. So anyway, oh, I've got such an itchy nose. It's hot in here, and that's... Anyway, now when I went out into the wilderness, I made sure that I was covered, and I did not go in high grass or trees, and I didn't risk ticks, black flies, or mosquito bites, and I kept well covered up. And I was in an open area by a beach. I exposed myself with a good wind without the gas mask, and every time I went out, I got stronger, and my immune system got stronger. And I was so sick for 2 years from the pesticides and the sulfites that I was taking up to 50 garlic pills a day just to breathe. And most days now I can just take maybe 4 or 5. Because when I go to sleep, my immune system starts to shut down, and I wake up with what you would call like symptoms of a head cold, only that's not what it is. It's just my immune system has gone down. But now, my immune system is pumped up because of that little bit, 15 minutes. I go to a park on swings or walk. I'm not talking a lot. And yeah, pumps up the immune system. So that's quite important for you to know the difference. And it will increase your immune system. And I've been doing that. And when I had successfully done it for 22 years, I could go swimming and I could spend outside, providing there was no boats or planes or toxic chemicals or fires or barbecues or smoke or cigar redneck jerks, you know what I'm saying. Now, pesticide spraying caused all of Sudbury, Ontario, where I live. We have over 300 lakes to become contaminated, and now both from the air and on the ground, and blue algae, and there's no lake that I can swim in anymore, not since 2017. It's finished for me. It's just not safe. And chlorine pools, indoor pools. I could go to an outdoor sauna, spa, but not indoor, because the chlorine, I would take an attack. And water, chlorine in water, tap water makes me very ill. And so I sponge bath, or I bath in lukewarm baking water in a bath with baking soda and almond oil. And yeah, it makes a mess of the tub, but Dan will clean it up for me. Lucky me. And washing my hair is a nightmare. I brush it a lot, and I wash it very seldom. When I do, I use a fragrance-free Dove, but I haven't washed my hair in 1 year because I get that sick from washing my hair, and I turn my hair upside down, and everything just goes, just so painful. So it's an old-fashioned method. I go out, covered my head all the time, so I'm not getting as much dirt, and it is oily because I'm brushing it, but I brush it every couple of days rigorously, and so far it got me through a year. Now, I drink and cook in distilled bottled water that is bottled by a local family-owned operation in safe, hard plastic that does not bleach. It's too heavy to carry glass, but glass, of course, would be perfect. And some people, if you can afford it, you put in your own distiller. But microscopic minerals are just microscopic rocks, and they cause hardening of the arteries. That's not the minerals your body needs. You need the minerals from fruit and vegetables. So I don't even want to go into that conversation right now, or out on that one. That's the bottom line. I don't care who you are, that's the bottom line. Food intolerance is not entirely an allergy. It's a digestive damage. Now, I take sleeping weak spells from organic meats and porridge. My digestive system just simply cannot break down. Don't have enough enzymes properly. I use the separate your food group system, which it's called for metabolic breakdown. And sometimes I can put a couple of food groups together, but for the most part, I am careful about my food groups. I eat 2 main meals a day, and one is carbs and protein, and that would be the night meal. And the afternoon is the kale smoothie with the apple, carrots, and yogurt, and so on. Now, when I can get organic salad and vegetables from local farmers, I did have more energy, and I did not pass out as much eating them. But my community is redneck territory, and very hard for me to get that. So I have a limit what I can eat and buy safely. Immune damage, low T and B cell function. I infect easily, and every day I wake up, it feels like I have a little bit of bronchitis, as I mentioned. And the coated garlic pills pull me out of that in about an hour. I use, for cuts, small cuts, I use antibiotic creams. For a virus, I just stay away from people as much as I can. When I was going dancing, I did not go dancing during flu season. Come September, October, it's colder weather, and the bugs are away, and I have winter, I go skiing or walking. And I danced only in spring and summer, and a little bit in the fall, but not if it was crowded, because they always made me sick. Because people are careless. They don't care. So, a lot of ignorance on that. But if I do get a cold virus, I take a truckload of coated garlic pills, rather than use antibiotics. And I've been able to successfully stay off antibiotics for almost 10 years. And prior to that, I was on them almost 5 times a year, because I just didn't have the information I'm providing you with. People were spreading their viruses to us, and they didn't care. Now, this often meant I had to isolate myself, but that's okay, I find other ways to be busy and things to do and to help others online and on Facebook. And it makes my life worthwhile that I can help somebody besides myself. That keeps me out of suicidal despair and a pity trip. But winter for me is my best time. You need to find your best time and use it to your advantage. And for me, there's less toxins and the air is cleaner. Now, for some, the desert in Arizona is the best. I did get flu shots after they were perfected, not at first. And COVID is another topic for another time. I don't have enough proof that's entirely safe for me right now. And I still have work I want to do, so I'm staying in isolation. Hopefully I won't get COVID and die, and I can finish my work. And then in about a year, I plan to risk getting a vaccine. And if I die, well, I've done what I could do for humanity. And I hope some of this research will provide a better future for those of us who are trying to live in a normal, toxic world, as eventually 90% will be born just like me. And as I say, I have everything on a free website. And God bless those of you who are suffering. I know it's painful and it's hard. I didn't have anybody, but I went in a gas mask to a local media. I walked in and I handed them some research that I received from an American agency about chemical hypersensitivities, such as you could print out the information on the Mayo Clinic, Parkinsonism, symptoms, causes, etc., and hand it to them and say, now, I'm not the only one. People who don't get symptoms often get cancer. And I used that. And the men in the mines were getting heart disease, and they needed better gas mask equipment. And so if you don't make it just about selfish you, they're more likely to want to be supportive. Not national media. They're only about money. You got to be rich and famous to get them to talk to you. But small town media is much more willing. Now, my father got me blacklisted so that my media, I have not had anything since 1996. But it doesn't matter. What I have has worked. So don't give up. And just remember, you are not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of you living in isolation, too sick to function, and not able to get outside in the community. And I try to be their voice. And God bless us all. I care about the children, and I care about you. And I don't care about pigs like Trump and Trudeau. And don't get me started on our politicians. And I don't care what country you're in. Canada's laws are 2,000 years old that promote fraud. And we don't even have the right to know that you're being robbed of your home, you're being robbed of your disability, and you don't even have the right to be treated with the same respect that a veterinarian would treat a dog. Welcome to Canada. Over and out. Yes, I get angry. It's what keeps me going.